Avatar: The Last Airbender held nothing back when portraying the Fire Nation's violence. They were ruthless towards the other three nations, and in the case of the ruling Fire Nation family, terrible to each other. Prince Zuko was physically scarred by his own father, Fire Lord Ozai, and banished entirely from the Fire Nation for showing weakness. Or so we thought. An intriguing new theory explains that Ozai may have had another reason for sending Zuko away, and it could explain a long-running mystery in Avatar: The Last Airbender. In Season 1 of The Last Airbender, we learned Zuko was banished from the Fire Nation because of his insolence. After publicly speaking out against a general's plans in a war meeting, Fire Lord Ozai challenged his own son Zuko to an Agni Kai, a traditional Fire Nation duel. When Zuko refused to fight his father, Ozai was furious and perceived his son's actions as disrespectful. As punishment, Ozai permanently burned Zuko's face, stripped him of his honor, and sent him away for good, unless he could capture the missing avatar. But did the Fire Lord really banish his only son just for mouthing off to a general? Reddit user Neolator argues that the real reason Ozai banished Zuko was that so Azula could take his place as heir to the throne. But what if Zuko hadn't been banished, or burned? How would that have affected him, and the story? Zuko's burn and banishment created a lot of trauma and angst and shame in the story. It's a large part of his plotline and how he acted. According to the theory, Ozai had always planned to get rid of Zuko in one way or another, so his evil and more powerful sister Azula could become Ozai's successor. That's why Ozai faced his son during Agni Kai instead of the general Zuko disrespected. Whatever Zuko might have done, his punishment was never going to fit the crime. What's more, Zuko's exile also sent away Iroh, the rightful Fire Lord, killing two birds with one stone, just as Ozai presumably intended all along. Zuko, without his scar, would have remained at the parlance with his father, uncle, and sister. This was most likely unwanted. That way, Ozai could favor Azula and have her take Zuko's rightful spot as heir to the throne. Zuko is arguably not as skilled as Azula, and Azula is a lot more powerful and obedient to Ozai. The Avatar: The Last Airbender comics fill in some of the gaps to strengthen this theory. In The Search, Part 2, Zuko looks for answers about his mother, who mysteriously disappeared at around the same time Ozai became Fire Lord. In the show, it's hinted in a flashback that the previous Fire Lord Azulon ordered Ozai to kill a young Zuko as punishment for conspiring against Iroh. The next morning, Azulon is dead, Ozai is Fire Lord, and Zuko's mom is gone, and it's never really clear on how these things all connect. However, the comics reveal that Ozai really was going to kill Zuko on his own father's order, but Zuko's mother Ursa convinced him not to, exchanging Zuko's life with a poison Ozai used to kill his own father and claim the throne. Afterward, Ursa went into hiding and changed her appearance permanently. Had this still happened and Ursa still saved Zuko, but he hadn't been sent away, we'd see a Zuko that would continue to fight for love. He'd do his best to fit in and follow blindly behind his father in an attempt to impress him. We'd still see a power struggle between him and Azula, and Ozai's preference towards Azula. But one thing we most likely wouldn't see would be Zuko's shift to the good side. He wouldn't have sought out Aang to teach him firebending, and probably wouldn't have learned from his grandfather Roku. Iroh would have left at some point to help with the taking back of Ba Sing Se, and left Zuko with Ozai, where he would have become the Phoenix King, and still liked made Azula the Fire Lord. The Fire Nation Prince was only 13 years old when he spoke out against the general and faced his father in the Agni Kai. At the time, Zuko believed himself ready to be included in major decisions, and it was only because he pestered his uncle Iroh that he was allowed into the War Council to begin with. At that tender an age, the incident was surely traumatizing to Zuko, who spent the next 2 years working to find and kill Aang, so as to appease his abusive father and regain his honor. That means Zuko was 15 years old when The Last Airbender began. With all of the information that we have, this theory makes a lot of sense. Ozai clearly favored his daughter Azula. The Agni Kai wasn't his first opportunity to get rid of Zuko, but when it arrived, he took advantage of it with the ruthless ferocity we should expect from a Fire Lord. Despite their family ties, Ozai's treatment of Zuko is pretty disturbing. It's very possible the contentious father-son relationship was never going to get better, because Ozai always had it out for Zuko. Whether it's for the reasons previously stated or not, Ozai had a vision of the future, and Zuko was very obviously not a part of it, regardless of which general he spoke out against. Perhaps Azula was functioning under the impression that Ozai would never crown Zuko no matter what he did to regain his honor, which explains her arrogance throughout the series. If Azula knew Ozai wanted her to rule no matter what, nothing she could say or do would change that. Granted, Azula and Ozai only interacted a few times on screen in The Last Airbender. However, even when Azula acted out or spoke out of turn in front of Ozai, her admonishment was minuscule when compared to Zuko's infamous punishment. So we ask the question again, what if Zuko hadn't been burned and banished? We argue not much would have changed. He would have stayed on the side of the Fire Nation trying to outdo his sister, but still would have fallen short of his father's love. Aang would have lost a teacher and in the end a friend, and it's hard to say how the war would have ended otherwise. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments below. And until next time, as always, stay flamin'.